After the accident, we all fell out of the car, and me and my husband tried to figure out where the children were, and they wasn't in the car anymore. So I ran around in a dark night to find my children, and that was really the worst day of my life, to realize they were not in the car anymore. We found the little one, and he was first out of the car. And then he was explaining later to us, because he only had a couple of bruises and cuts, that Jesus caught him. While I was busy with him trying to figure out if he was alive or not, a car tried to avoid the accident scene and where all the people stopped. So he went in the bush, and this is exactly where we were. So I jumped up because I realized this car is going to drive over us. And as I jumped up and I looked into the lights of the vehicle, a very strange thing happened to me. My whole body starts shaking, but not like when you're cold. It's like really, really shaking. And I was looking at this lights of this car, and the next thing after the shaking, the heat, it's like fire. I could tell where it went. It went right through my whole body. And after that, I could say it's here and then at my feet. And right after that, the peace of the living God was with me. And to have peace in this worst situation, when I had this peace, he was in heaven. Jesus, what happened actually there later on, after he was in a coma for months, and he came out of the coma, but he couldn't speak. The only thing that he could do was write. And then he was explaining while he was writing to me. That night, on that accident scene, I looked into Jesus' eyes, the Messiah's eyes, where he took him, picked him up, and took him to heaven. While he was in heaven, God showed him the whole place and the houses and the children and the babies and everything. And then he came back, and one day he starts writing about the two children he saw in heaven. So he gave the addresses of the parents, and he was telling about both children, how they are so happy in heaven, but they do not want to come back. But their children are worried about the parents. Have they ever surrendered their life to Jesus? And he gave this little letter and say, your son is happy, he's healed, he's complete. But what about you? So I was really thinking, this medicine is too strong. How can this be? And I just kept the letters separate. And one day a friend visited us, and he was writing because he couldn't speak and saying, my mother's not obedient to God's voice. And I said, what do you mean? He says, those two letters. So this friend of mine took the two letters.
Well, how could you find these two kids that he met in heaven?
He gave the address. He says...
He had the address?
Yes, he says...
How could he know the address?
It's impossible. And I cried that night. And Jesus himself came into my room. And the Shekinah glory just filled the room. It was white glory of God. His Shekinah glory.